Okay, good evening, everyone. So in the last class, we have seen the transfer acceleration on S3 service, right? So today we will go with another feature of S3, which is life cycle rules. So what is this life cycle rules is every day, like we can store a lot of data into S3 buckets, right? So whenever the data is very old, like 1 year old or 1 month old or 2 months old, there is no point of like what we call that maintaining in your S3 bucket using the standard storage class. So assume that we created one S3 bucket. So we have created one S3 bucket. And let us say I uploaded one object, which is some kind of a document which is required for your day-to-day operations. And the document was uploaded on May 1st. So today is like almost like July. It's been almost like 2 months older, right? Sometimes there are few objects or few documents which might not be useful after 30 days. And here, the whatever the document we uploaded, that is uploaded into a standard storage class. If the object is more than 30 days older, we don't use that object regularly as per your organization policy. Whenever any object is more than 30 days older, that object is not regularly accessible. So is there any use of maintaining such kind of objects into the standard storage class? No, because whenever the object is more than 30 days older, object might be accessed once in a month or twice in a month, once or twice in a given month. So if you maintain such kind of objects into the standard storage class, we are going to pay more storage charges for maintaining that object into the standard storage class. So to avoid such kind of additional charges, always it is recommended to maintain such kind of objects into the infrequent access so that we can reduce some storage charges. Because in the standard storage class, if they are charging you like $1 per GB, so here they might charge you like 70 cents or 60 cents per GB. But obviously there is an additional charges whenever you open it. And as per the organization policy, whenever an object is more than 30 days older, that object will not be accessible on a daily basis. That is infrequently accessed data. So in this case, let us say we have to every month on 1st or 2nd, we have to log into the S3 bucket and we have to check each and every object. When was it uploaded and what is the age of the object? And manually we can move the objects from one storage class to another storage class, which we can do manually. If you have only few objects like 10, 20, 30, that is not a big job. We can manually move it. What if you have like thousands of objects? It will be a little bit difficult, right? What if we have like more than 10,000 or 20,000 or 1 million objects? That is highly impossible to check that each and every object's date of creation and to move the objects from one storage class to another storage class. Let us say I have a requirement that whenever we create the object, that object to be uploaded to the standard storage class. And after 30 days, that means on 31st day, I would like to move all the objects into the standard IA. After that, like again, 30 days. So totally from the date of creation, I can say 60 days. I would like to move to one zone IA. And then after 90 days, I would like to move it to the glacier. And or glacier deep archive. And after 365 days, I would like to delete the object. I don't want any object which is more than 365 days older. Let us say this is my organization policy. So different organizations will have a different requirements. Like they might maintain object for at least like 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Every day you have to check each and every object or at least monthly once, and you have to move the storage class of the object from one storage class to another storage class. If you have a lot of objects and lot of S3 buckets, it is highly impossible to check manually and we cannot move the objects manually from one storage class to another storage class. In such kind of cases, Amazon is providing you a feature called life cycle rules. By using this life cycle rules, we can automate the storage class of the object to be transitioned from one storage class to another storage class. So as per this policy, or as per this particular schedule, can I move any object from one zone IA to standard back? You cannot. You have to follow the same order. You cannot move any object from the Glacier Deep Archive or one zone IA to standard IA. Always you have to follow the from one to starting to least only. You cannot move the objects from down to top approach. You have to go from top to bottom approach. So what is the top to bottom approach is, the first level of the storage class will be the standard, and the second one will be the standard IA, and the third one will be the intelligent tier, and the fourth one one zone IA. Fifth one is the, what is the fifth one? In the Glacier we have three types, right? What are the three in the Glacier? Subtypes of the Glacier? Glacier, instant retrieval. Yeah, flexible is also one thing, but the priority will be the Glacier instant retrieval first, and then the Glacier flexible retrieval, and then Glacier Deep Archive, and then finally you can delete the object, and they call it as expire. Technically, Amazon S3 called that object deletion as an expire. Expiring the object means the object will be gets deleted. So generally, how to move any object from one storage class to another storage class? We don't know, right? Manually also we don't know. But here, by using the lifecycle rule, we can transition the objects from one storage class to another storage class automatically according to a rule. What is the meaning of a transition? In general, the meaning of a transition, moving from one form to another form, right? That is where we can use the term called transition. So here we are moving the objects storage class from one storage class to another storage class. So by using this lifecycle rule, we can automate the transition of the objects storage class from one class to another class. But while we are doing this, we cannot transition in our own way. We have to follow some top-down approach. So we can transition the storage classes from top to bottom only. What is the top to bottom approach is, the one will be the standard, the second one will be the standard IA, the third one is intelligent tier, fourth one will be the Glacier instant retrieval, fifth one will be Glacier flexible retrieval, and then Glacier Deep Archive, and finally expire. Expire is nothing but deletion of the object. So if you delete the object, you cannot move that object from delete to standard or standard IA, right? So you can move any object from standard to standard IA, or standard to intelligent tier, or standard to intelligent instant retrieval. You can move the object from 1 to any bottom numbers, but you cannot move any object from Glacier instant retrieval to the 1, 2, and 3 storage classes. You cannot move any object storage class from the higher number to the lower number. This is the order of the numbering for all the storage classes. And there is no rule that you have to move from standard to standard IA and then to intelligent tier. You can directly move from standard to intelligent tier, or directly you can move from standard to Glacier Deep Archive also. So before going to discuss about the lifecycle rules, first we will see how can we transition the objects storage class manually from one storage class to another storage class. So already we have a lot of S3 buckets available, which we created in the previous sessions, right? So in that, we can take few objects and manually let us move one object from one storage class to another storage class. If you don't have any objects, we can upload few and then we can move. So here we have a lot of, right? So we will select any of the object and let us move the object's storage class from standard to standard IA or any other storage class. So I can say that change the object's storage class from standard to Glacier, or I can say, let us say one zone IA, and then let us change the objects storage class from standard to Glacier, I can say flexible retrieval. So these are the manual transitions. We are not using the lifecycle rules yet. Just we are checking how to manually change the object's storage class from one storage class to another storage class. So once we are done with this, we can check how can we move or how can we change the object storage class from one class to another class automatically using the lifecycle rules. And then we can define a rule, like what is our requirement. So first we have to write down a rule, and then based on that, we can create the lifecycle rules. So once we are done with all these things, we can check that is there any option to move this storage class from one zone IA to the standard also. Because automatically by using the lifecycle rules, which is not possible. We will verify the same using the manual transition also. So first one, like, let me go to our Amazon account. You can take any S3 bucket, that doesn't matter. Whatever the S3 buckets already you have, and in which you have some objects, take that particular S3 bucket. And whatever the object you would like to move the storage class, select that particular storage class. I mean, select that particular object. Right now, the object's storage class is standard. Right? So select the object and click on actions. And you can see there is one option called edit storage class. Let me select that option. And here you can select the required or destination storage class. And click on save changes. And now it is done. Now you can see the storage class of the object has been changed from standard to standard IA. From now onwards, for this object, the charges will be applicable as per one zone IA storage class. In the same way, let me select another object and let me change the storage class from standard to Glacier flexible retrieval. So select the object, procedure will be the same. Go to edit storage class and you can select the Glacier flexible retrieval. So we have two objects. One object storage class is Glacier flexible retrieval and the another storage class is one zone IA. Now the question is, can I change the storage class from one zone IA to the standard manually? And can I change this storage class to standard again from Glacier flexible retrieval? Yes or no? No. Why? Okay, now what I do is change the object's storage class from one zone IA to standard. And then we will do the same thing on a different object. Glacier flexible retrieval to standard. So first, now let us change the object from one zone IA to standard. So manually we are not doing based on life cycle rules. So the procedure will be the same. Select the object which is already in one zone IA storage class. Click on actions, edit storage class. And here you can select standard and click on save changes. Click on close, and now you can see the storage class of this object is standard. So we can say that you can manually move the storage class of one zone IA to any storage class. Or in general, you can change, you can say like manually you can move the storage class of the object from any storage class to any storage class, right? Does the same applicable to the Glacier also? Yes or no? Okay, let us check that. So here I have one object which is in Glacier flexible retrieval, right? If I click on actions, I don't get edit storage class. Why? First thing is, whatever the objects you store in the Glacier, the object is not readily available to access, right? Without having the accessibility, how can we change the storage class? So here the logic is, if the object storage class can be changed, no need to do the initiate, restore or retrieval process, right? Directly I can change the storage class from Glacier to standard and immediately I can access the object. So there is no point of Glacier concept anymore. That's why for the Glacier storage classes, you cannot change the object storage class from Glacier to any non-Glacier. But the remaining non-Glacier storage classes, you can move the object from one storage class to any storage class manually. So here you can write down like not possible. So you can write down a point like we can change or we can move the object from any storage class to any storage class manually, except for Glacier storage class. You cannot change the storage class of the object which is already in the Glacier. But for non-Glacier like standard, standard IA, one zone IA, intelligent tier, you can change the object storage class manually in any order. There is no rule to follow the order. There is no order applicable for manual transition. So now what we do is we have to create a life cycle rule to automate the transition of the object from one storage class to another storage class according to the organizational requirement. So we will define the requirement first, and then we will see how to create any object or how to move any object from one storage class to another storage class. Okay. So now here, let us say you created one S3 bucket. You created one S3 bucket and assume that you enabled versioning. You enable versioning. Then what will happen? For every object, there are two different types of versions available, right? What are those two? One is called as a current version of the object, and the second one is called as previous version of the object. Let us say you uploaded one file called a.txt and you modified that for like 5 times. So there will be one current version and 4 previous versions. Would you like to apply the life cycle rule only for the current version of the object or even for the previous version of the object? How would you like to apply? And for both the versions, you can create different types of a life cycle rules. So here the thing is, if any object's version is the previous version, definitely that will be the infrequently accessed, right? We don't prefer to access the old versions after a few days. So no need to maintain the previous version objects for multiple storage classes. After 30 days, directly I can move to the Glacier also, right? There is no point of maintaining the previous version of the object in like standard IA or one zone IA after 30 days. If there is any problem with the current version, we can identify within 30 days and we can roll back it. So every organization will have their own requirements to move the objects from one storage class to another storage class. But here, whenever you create the lifecycle rules, you have to create the lifecycle rule for the current version of the objects and the previous version of the objects. So that automatically the objects will be moved from one storage class to another storage class after a certain number of days. So now here, what we do is, we will create a lifecycle rule, or I can say automatic transition. So we can write down a rule like create a lifecycle rule to automate transition of the objects storage class as mentioned below. We can write down the requirement at the bottom. Based on that, we can write down a rule. So the lifecycle rule to be created for both the versions. First, we will write down a rule for the current version. First, we will note down the requirement for the current version. So I can say the day on which you upload the object is called as day 0. Let us say if I upload today, that is considered as a day 0. Whenever I upload the object will be uploaded to the standard storage class. If I upload today, always I prefer to upload any object into the standard storage class, and that day will be considered as day 0. And we have a requirement that whenever the object is more than 30 days older, that means on day 31, object is old object, so we don't access such kind of objects regularly. And whenever the object is more than 30 days older, the object can be accessed infrequently, like monthly once or monthly twice, that object will be accessible. In such cases, there is no use of maintaining those objects in the standard storage class. That's why I will write down like on day 30, day 30 means 31st day. After 30 days, I would like to move that object into standard IA. Standard IA, standard infrequent access. The standard IA storage class is recommended to store the objects which can be accessed infrequently. What is the meaning of infrequently? Like monthly once or twice, not regularly. So then after day 60, I would like to move the same object into one zone IA. And if you observe, I skipped another storage class called intelligent tier, right? Because we can skip. There is no rule that you have to move the object from every storage class to every storage class before deleting. Directly you can configure to delete the object after 30 days also. So after day 60, I mean on day 61, we can move the object into one zone IA. And then on day 90, after 90 days, I would like to move the object into Glacier Deep Archive. Glacier Deep Archive. Or you can select Glacier Flexible Retrieval also. And from here, day 365, I would like to delete the object. This is the transition rule for my current version of the object. In the same way, you can write down a different rule for previous version objects also. What I do is, for the previous version, on day 0, object will be in the standard, and then after day 30, that means on day 31, directly I would like to move into Glacier Deep Archive, and on day 365, I would like to delete the object. So I have skipped a lot of storage classes because previous version itself is the outdated object, and after 30 days it's completely outdated and we don't require that object. But as per my company's policy, I would like to maintain that object for at least 365 days, like 1 year. After 1 year, we would like to delete the object. Wait, I think here I have to write down like expire. Technically, we can call that as expire. So now what we are going to do is, we are going to create these lifecycle rules. We are going to create these lifecycle rules to automate the transition of the object from one storage class to another storage class according to this rule. And there is no mandate that you have to create the lifecycle rule for both the versions. You can create only current version and you can leave it, so that the previous versioned objects cannot be moved from one storage class to another storage class. Whatever the rules you create, the object, that kind of versions will be moved. If you create only current version and if you skip the previous version, the previous versioned objects will be always maintained in the same storage class. Okay, so instead of moving the objects directly, you can configure the delete also. Like after day 30, I can delete it, or directly after day 365, I can delete it. Anything is possible, but you have to create the rules according to your organizational requirements. Okay, right. So now let us see how to do that. For this, what I do is, first, as a first step, I will create one S3 bucket. I will create one S3 bucket and I will upload objects like 3 or 4 objects, and I will enable versioning so that we can apply the lifecycle rule for the current version and the previous version also. Okay, so here I can say like prerequisites to be like create a S3 bucket, enable versioning. Even without versioning also you can do that, but to check both the things, let us enable versioning and upload few objects. Upload few objects. So quickly, I will log into our Amazon account. I don't want to use any existing buckets. So I will create a new bucket, click on create bucket, and let me give some name called lifecycle rule. And I will use today's date for uniqueness. And directly I will click on create bucket. So how to enable versioning? How to enable versioning of any S3 bucket? So I would like to enable versioning on this particular bucket. So how to enable? Because while creating, I haven't enabled, right? So once we got created, now I realized that I have to enable versioning on that bucket. Where is the properties? So first you have to click on the bucket, get into the bucket, then click on the properties tab. So the first option itself, the versioning. Even you can proceed with the lifecycle rules without enabling the versioning also. It is not a minimum requirement, but to test the lifecycle rule for previous versions and current versions, we are going to enable. Click on edit, select enable, and click on save changes. So the versioning got enabled. Now let me upload few objects into the S3 bucket. So how to enable? At this point of time, without going back, like click on buckets or something, how can I upload the objects? So you have to click on the objects tab and you can click on upload and you can upload all the files here. So what I do is I will open the folder. Directly, I will drag and drop the files. So I can drag and drop. So I can click on upload. So today will be the day 0. For all these objects, today will be the day 0. And on day 31, in our terms, that will be day 31, but Amazon's terms will be day 30. Because the first day will be considered as a day 0. Okay, right now we have to create the lifecycle rule on this bucket so that all these objects storage class will be changed from standard to different storage classes based on the life, based on the number of days from the date of creation. So to do that, what you have to do is get into the S3 bucket, and then here you can see one tab called management tab. Click on the management tab, click on the management, and the first rule itself is a lifecycle rules. The first option itself is the lifecycle rules. Click on create lifecycle rule. Click on create lifecycle rule. So here you can give any name, that doesn't matter. You can give any name. Okay. So now we have something called choose a rule scope. First, what is the meaning of the scope? What is the meaning of the scope? In general, what is the meaning of a scope? Zoom is not the scope. Scope is kind of like within the requirement or something, some kind of that. Like let us say, yeah, kind of a focus. Okay. So here, this rule to be applied for which objects? Because I have like how many objects we have? So in the S3 bucket, I uploaded these objects, right? Total 5 objects. This rule to be applied to which objects? Would you like to apply the rule to all the objects or only to few objects? So here we have the first option called limit the scope of this rule using one or more filters. That means the rule will be applied to the few objects based on some filters. What are those filters? I would like to apply this rule only to the objects which started with some prefix. Prefix means the initial characters, like whatever the file started with yes. This rule to be applied to that particular object only. Let us say whenever you're uploading the objects, you can upload the objects with the prefix as like prod, dev, test, something. So you can create multiple rules for different objects, and you can apply the rule only to the few objects which are having a specific prefix or a specific tag also. But here I will select apply to all objects in the bucket. So the same rule will be applied to each and every object available in that particular S3 bucket. So whatever the rule we are going to create, that rule will be applied to all the objects. Select apply to all objects in the bucket under choose a rule scope. Then select the checkbox that I acknowledge that the rule will be applied to all the objects in the bucket. Just kind of a confirmation. Then just scroll down. And here you can see the lifecycle rule actions. What is our requirement? We would like to apply the lifecycle rule for current version of the objects, previous version of the objects, which is called as non-current version. And then expire current version of the objects. We have deletion of the objects after 365 days in our requirement, right? Okay. And then we have to delete the previous version of the objects also, right? That is called as permanently delete. Whatever is in your requirement, you have to select the checkboxes. So here, if I select the first checkbox, then you will get some options to create a rule. If I uncheck this one, you don't get any options here. So whatever is your requirement, you have to select the checkboxes. Let me select all the checkboxes. I will explain what exactly each and every option is. The first one is, by selecting the first option, it will allow you to create the rule for the current version of the objects. And the second option will enable you to configure the lifecycle rule for previous version of the objects. That is also called as non-current version of the objects. And then expire current version of the objects. That means you can delete the current version of the objects. What will happen if you delete the object, the current version of the object? Especially in the versioning enabled buckets, it will not be deleted permanently. It will be marked with the delete marker. And to delete the object permanently, you have to delete the previous version independently. So to delete the objects permanently, which is non-current version, you have to select the fourth checkbox. And what might be the fifth one? What might be the fifth one? Because already we configure to delete the current versions and the previous versions also. Then what might be that fifth option? Okay, whenever you upload some, let us say 500 GB file, how it will be uploaded in the backend? By using multi-part upload feature, right? So while you are uploading the huge object using multi-part upload feature, sometimes if the upload got failed, there is a chance that the incomplete multi-part upload object will be available in your bucket. And there is no use of such kind of failed multi-part uploads, right? We call it as incomplete multi-part uploads. If you would like to delete those incomplete multi-part uploads automatically, so you can select this one. So automatically such kind of incomplete multi-part uploads will be deleted from your S3 bucket, and we can save some money, because to storing some incomplete objects, that will consume some space, right? Why should we waste money on irrelevant data to store? So by selecting the fifth option, we can delete such kind of incomplete multi-part uploads also. Now we have to define the rule for the current version of the objects. And then you have to define a rule for non-current version of the objects also. So on day 0, the object will be uploaded to the standard IA, right? And here you cannot select standard, because already the object is in the standard and there is no specific requirement to move the object from standard to standard. That's why here you cannot see the standard concept here. And are you able to see the reducer redundancy? But we have such kind of storage class, right? Which is outdated one, or the previous generation storage class, which is not recommended by Amazon. And the RRS, or reduced redundancy storage, is not available under lifecycle rules. So what is our requirement for the current version of the object? Right now the object is in the standard. After 30 days, that has to be moved to standard IA. So here you have to select standard IA and the number of days. After 30 days from the date of creation, that will be moved to standard IA. And then you have to click on add transition. And then what is our requirement? After 60 days from one zone IA. So here the 60 days is from which date? Like from the date of creation, or from the date of the object has been moved to standard IA. Let us say the object was created on June 1st, or let us say May 1st. So object will be object was created on June 1st. So on July 1st, the object will be moved to standard IA. So the 60 days will be calculated from June 1st or July 1st. June 1st, because here you can see that days after the object creation. Actually, the object was created on June 1st. So 30 days and 60 days will be calculated from the date on which the object was created. Okay, so here, can I select 40 days? Can I select 40 days? Are you sure? The integer value for one zone IA must be at least 30 more than the value for the standard IA. What is the value for the standard IA? So minimum you have to select 60. Why? Any guess? Minimum it should be 30 plus the days after standard IA. Why? There must be some reason, right? Without any reason, they don't select such kind of rules. What might be the reason? Okay, what is the minimum object storage duration for the standard IA? 30 days. There is no minimum object duration of 7 days for any storage class. There are 30 days minimum object duration, 90 days, 180 days. There is no 7 days or 10 days. And what about the minimum object storage duration for the standard storage class? Standard storage class. Minimum how many days you have to keep that object into the standard storage class? There is no minimum object storage duration for the standard. For standard IA, 30 days. Intelligent tier, no duration. One zone IA, 30 days. For glacier instant retrieval, how many days? 90 days. Glacier instant flexible retrieval. What about the glacier deep archive? 180 days. 180 days for the glacier deep archive. Just we can go back to the previous document where we have mentioned the minimum object storage duration. So here, that is the reason they are saying, like here also 30 days minimum storage duration. 30 days minimum storage duration. While you are selecting the storage class itself, you can see that the minimum number of storage days you have to keep. That's why you have to add minimum 30. Can I select 65? Yes, more than 30, you can select any number of days. So on 61st day, the object will be moved to one zone IA. Then what is the requirement? After 90 days, I would like to move it into the glacier deep archive. Click on add transition. Select glacier deep archive, 90 days. And here, select this checkbox. And then where is the delete option? There is no add transition. And here also in the drop down also, we cannot see delete or expire option, right? Why? Because the expire you have to configure separately. I will show you that. And even from one zone IA, you cannot select any of the objects which is more on top of the one zone IA. You cannot select intelligent tier. You cannot select standard IA because you cannot go back to the top level. Always you have to go from top to bottom approach. Once you move it to the 90 days, you have to scroll down and you have to define current or non-current versions. What is the requirement for the non-current version? Still we have this pending one, right? Expiring or deleting the object after 365 days is still pending. I will show you where to configure that. Now coming to the previous versions, after 30 days, I would like to move it to the glacier deep archive. So here directly, I will select glacier deep archive and you can see minimum storage duration is 180 days and 30. And you can see something new option, which is recently introduced. What is this one? Sorry? Name of? I don't think there will be name for the versions. Number of versions. Let us say in the previous example, I said like we modified the object for 5 times. So one current version and the 4 previous versions. Would you like to move all the 4 previous versions into the Glacier Deep Archive after 30 days? Or would you like to keep the latest previous version in the same standard and the other versions to be into the Glacier Deep Archive? The reason is, let us say if you find out that after 60 days, you require the previous version immediately. If that is in the Glacier, you cannot recover that quickly, right? That's why if I select like 1, the latest 1 previous version will be maintained in the same standard storage class, and the remaining 3 will be moved into the Glacier Deep Archive. That is the meaning of this one, which is recently introduced. And if I don't select anything, then all the non-current versions will be moved into the Glacier Deep Archive. If I select 1 non-current version will be available in the standard or in the same previous storage class, and the remaining non-current versions will be moved to the Glacier Deep Archive. And acknowledge that. And this is the place where you can configure the deletion of the objects. Technically, we can call it as expire. So here I can say 365. This is for current version of the objects. And here you can select permanently delete non-current version of the objects. I can say 365. Even here also, you can maintain up to 100 previous versions to be maintained without deleting. Because at least we need to maintain the latest 1 version, right? That's why you can select 1, 5, 10, but you cannot maintain more than 100 versions. If I do like this, every version of the object will be permanently deleted, but the latest 1 version will be maintained in the S3 bucket forever. And then here you can select the checkbox, delete incomplete multi-part uploads. So I can say like 2 days. So it will wait for continuously for 2 days. If you resume that incomplete multi-part upload, it's okay. Otherwise, after 2 days, that incomplete multi-part uploads will be automatically cleaned up. Based on all the options, whatever you have selected, you can see what we call that you can review the here. On the left side, you can see the current version transition. On day 0, the object will be uploaded. On day 30, technically 30, but in our case, that will be the day 31, because Amazon will start from day 0. In our terms, the day 0 will be the first day. So day 30 will be the 31st day. After 30 days, object will be moved to the standard IA. And on day 60, it will be moved to one zone IA. On day 90, object will be moved to Glacier Deep Archive. And on day 365, the object will be expired. That means the object will be marked with delete marker. And if you go for the non-current versions, on day 30, object 1 non-current version will be retained. Retained means it will be maintained, and all other non-current versions will be moved to Glacier, which is a Glacier Deep Archive. On day 365, 1 latest non-current version will be maintained, and all other previous versions will be deleted permanently. And here you have to click on create rule. If you come back after 30 days, you can observe that all your objects will be moved to the standard IA because of our rule. If you have any objects which has some previous versions, you can observe those objects will be automatically moved to the Glacier Deep Archive after 30 days. And if you check after 1 year, all the versions will be deleted automatically, especially the non-current versions. Even though you have like 1,000 previous versions, that doesn't matter. It will maintain 1 non-current version, and it will remove all the previous non-current versions from your S3 bucket permanently. So this is how you can create the life cycle rules, so that all the objects in your S3 bucket will be moved from one storage class to another storage class automatically. So if you would like to check, you can come back after 30 days. and you can check the movement of the object storage class from standard to standard IO. Because it is a little bit difficult to configure or move the objects from manually, right? So everybody can configure this lifecycle rules. So automatically the objects will be moved from one storage class to another storage class according to the lifecycle rules. Okay, right. So this is about the lifecycle rules of the S3 bucket. And are you guys clear or any questions on this? And also it's been like it's July 5th, right? So I guess everybody got some kind of, at least with the zero amount bills. Make sure to check your Amazon accounts for the bills. Where to check the bills? Do you guys know? Just you can go to the billing dashboard. But once you go to the billing dashboard, you can see the current month forecast. Like what will be your usage based on your usage, how much bill you will get by end of the month. That will be displayed here. But you have to click on bills. And here you have to select the previous month. So this is the place where you can check the bill. And if you got some bill, assume that you got some bill, because in the July I got some bill, right? I'm getting bill. So what might be the charges? So you can check for which service you got the bill also. So here it seems I got 0.45 for Elastic Compute Cloud. And that is in the Northern Virginia. And which is something else which you guys don't know. We haven't covered that. But here you can see, yeah, I think it seems there is nothing which you can observe. But if you go there, if you got some bill, most of the time I can suspect that you might get a bill for the Elastic IP address, which you haven't attached, but you forgot to release, or the EBS volumes. If you create the EBS volume using the provisioned IOPS or the cold HDD or throughput optimized, definitely you will get a bill. So you can revert back that bills also, like once or twice in your free tier account. So you can click here, this question mark symbol, go to support center, and you can create a support ticket, and you can mention that you are using this account for learning purpose, and you can request them to cancel the bill. So they can give you the credit waiver, but that will take like 3 to 4 days and no need to pay any money. But I don't recommend if the bill is like a few rupees, like 10 rupees or so, because going forward, there are few services which is not applicable for free tier. So you can use that facility in that case. If it is like less than 10 rupees or 5 rupees, I recommend to go ahead and pay the bill. Amazon will never deduct your money from your cards. What will happen if you don't pay the money? Amazon will suspend the account. After suspension, it will wait for 90 days that you can pay and reactivate. If you don't activate the account after 90 days, that account will be permanently closed, and which you cannot recover. Even you cannot create a new account using the same email. Even for 1 rupee also, your account will be suspended after 1 month. They will give sometimes 1 month or 2 months. But after that, if you have some pending money of like even 1 rupee also, you will lose the account. Because I lost one account only for 10 rupees. I haven't checked that during this COVID lockdown. I never used that personal account. So somewhere like I got bill of like 11 rupees or 12 rupees. Account got suspended. Even I didn't realize. After 90 days, that account got terminated permanently. So I cannot recollect that particular account using my email address. I have to create a new account using a new email address. Okay. So here you have to click on create case. So select account and billing. In the service, you can select billing. Category, you can select charge inquiry. Just scroll down and click on next step. So here you can use something like billing inquiry or something, whatever it is, that doesn't matter. And here in this, you can describe your problem. Like I'm using this account for learning purpose, and just please consider and give the credit waiver. And just you can go ahead and you can click on solve this one. And here you can select next, and just you can select web and you can click on submit. What will happen in the chat is they will come to the online support and they will chat. But there is no use of chatting online, because it will take like 48 to 72 working hours to resolve your issue. Okay. So make sure to check your accounts. If you got any bill, if it's a small amount, go ahead and pay it. And if it is a big number, just go ahead and create the support case and you will get the credit waiver. Okay, so I think you guys clear with the life cycle rules. So if you have any questions on this, you can ask me, or even with the previous features of S3. If you have any questions on any S3 topic, just you can ask me. And if you are clear, you guys can leave. Let us continue tomorrow with some kind of a replication rules. Okay, and manually we will see how can we use the command line interface or the programmatic access to upload the objects from your laptop to S3 bucket and download the objects from S3 bucket to your laptop also. Okay, all right. Any other questions? Okay, then thank you everyone. We'll continue tomorrow.